All right, sponsors, let's do this thing. Sponsors up at the front, stage left, front right corner. I need the sponsors. What's up, everybody? Y'all ready to get started? I'm going to need a favor from a few of you, especially those of you that are over on the sides. Can you guys help me fill in these chairs so the videos don't look terrible? It would be really, really, really helpful. And here's what's in it for you. These chairs are way better. These chairs all got replaced like last month. They're brand. Am I right, by the way? Those of you in the comfy chairs, y'all, am I right? They're the comfy chairs. Or you could sit on the old chairs that have been there for 25 years and get cleaned once in a while. I'm just kidding, by the way. They get cleaned pretty often. But the brand new chairs are right here, and I promise you, you're going to want to take them. And when people sneak in, we don't really want them walking in front of you. And I'm assuming, this is real estate, so I'm going to guess that not everybody is coming on time. Just a thought. But going to place a little wager here. We've been doing this for over 6 years, and that's the one thing I've learned is not everybody shows up on time. So thank you guys for showing up on time. Give yourselves a round of applause. And we're going to have a slightly lighter crowd, but a way better topic, in my opinion. Nothing against all the other panels, but we get to really go deep, and we knew it's not as sexy as how to sell 100 homes a year or how to build a giant team. But in the end of the day, you guys want to close more deals, right? Am I right? And we're going to talk about how to save yourself from mortgage nightmares. And without going into too many stories, I had a few nightmares and realized, oh my God, we really need people to talk about what they do differently and what makes the difference between a good lender and a great lender. And I think you're going to see that on stage. We've got a whole bunch of great ones, by the way. You're going to keep hearing from all of our preferred partners throughout the year. And we're going to have Ask the Expert sessions on the tail end of most of our masterclasses now, where you can just go deep and ask these people a handful of questions later. If you have a question today, write it on these cards and hold them up, and I'll come around and try to get them from you. But there's a handful of people that made this thing happen today, so I'm going to just give them each a minute to explain who they are. But how many of you guys have been here before? Raise your hands. Make some noise. All right. Anybody new here? All right. Can we welcome the new people? Thanks for coming out. So we do this on the third Thursday every month, January through November, and we've started in 2018. So it's been more than 6 years of doing this. We're super stoked for this year's schedule, and we're here at Enzion Theater almost all year. I want to say April session, we're about to tell you where it is, and it's not anywhere that we thought it'd be, so stay tuned. You will probably know today. And I want to say it's July or so, but you'll see the schedule come up, take a picture of it. Otherwise, we're here. I'm assuming the only month that's a little strange is in May. They're going to have bathrooms outside in a trailer because this whole side is going to be under construction. We're going to come in through this side, but this part's going to be perfect. So everyone's cool with that, right? I figured that agents won't really care. You don't need the lobby. As long as there's coffee and a bathroom and chairs, we'll make it work. So we told them we'll stay for May. So anyway, this thing, welcome. This is run by Orlando Real Producers. If you don't know us, we make a magazine about the top 500 agents in Greater Orlando each and every year. We rank those agents objectively with no ulterior motive, no political or board affiliation, nothing like that. And Real Producers has grown to something that's franchised in over 100 different markets. We were one of the first. We're still one of the largest. And what's cool about it is it's put on by about 80 preferred partners. These people are all personally recommended by top 500 agents, so that means they're legit. And those people commit to supporting this platform specifically on a multi-year commitment. So these people are not only legit, they're very committed to building relationships with you guys. They didn't come with bagels or donuts. They didn't throw $100 to try it. These people are all in on building a relationship with the best agents in the city. So if you meet anyone, by the way, how many people have met someone cool through the Real Producers platform already? All right, cool. So make sure you meet each other is all I'm saying. Everyone here is legit. If you meet someone that doesn't sell real estate and you're a real estate agent, I promise you they are not here by accident. They're not going to shove their card down your throat. There's someone you want to know just as badly as they want to know you. And a handful of them that want to know you stepped up to make today happen in this venue and not cost you guys any money. So let's give it up for them. They're all going to take a minute, explain who they are. Why don't you guys just come on down? Sorry, we should have put these mics on. So here's how we're going to do this. Hit that button once. Hit the left button once, and you will be on. Yep. There you go. Yep, just go for it. Let's go right on down.
How's it going, everybody? My name's Chance Kelly. I'm here with Miracle Movers of Florida. We are a local and long-distance moving company, and I'm here to offer you any and every service that your clients might need. All you need to do is relay their name and number to me and or vice versa, and I promise you I will take great care of each customer that you have, and they will be ecstatic about the service provided. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be sitting around waiting to talk to you. I'd love to buy each and every one of you a drink and get to know you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Love it. Hey, real quick, before Robert goes up, we definitely want to make a loud round of applause because Robert's this is his first time on stage at Masterclass. But I want to give a 1, 2, 3 clap for a few companies that I know are not here today. First of all, we've got Shay Walker Photo. Let's give her a 1, 2, 3. We've got the Penguin Property Management Team. They are not here yet, but you guys will be excited to meet them. Let's give them a 1, 2, 3. I want to say the staging company's probably not here. Brandon comes from all the way from Texas and flies back for Masterclass every month, which is pretty cool. They are formerly Systematic Home Staging, and they are one of the largest staging companies in Texas and Florida. Give them a 1, 2, 3. Let's see, anyone else? Housemaster's probably not here either, and if they are, sorry, come on up and tell me I was wrong. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's keep this going. Go ahead. Oh, and Mosin. Mosin got called for a photo shoot last second. Somebody was sick. He went out and ran it. Florida Home Photo. This is their first time, well, sort of their first time on stage at Masterclass, and it won't be their last. So let's give them a 1, 2, 3. All right, keep going, Robert.
Good morning. Robert Fitzpatrick with Stewart Title. I'm here with 2 of my teammates today. Really 3 things to remember with us. Number 1, education. We do a lot of stuff with Harding Bell, one of the sponsors here as well as others. Please reach out to us, talk to us about what we're bringing to the table. We have some CE credits coming next month, those kinds of things. Number 2, if you have a farm, if you have a sphere of influence, we bring you facts. Sit down with us. Let's go through it. Let's make sure what you're working with is what you want to be working with. And finally, let's put together a marketing plan together that makes sure that that house that you put on the market sells at the price point and in a timely fashion. Thank you.
Hi, guys. Heather Hurry, Pillar to Post, the Jeff Mackey team, home inspections partner of the group. So I have a question. Who in here would like to capture more listings and get to the closing table faster? Raise your hand. Awesome. So guess what? We have a tool for you. It's called Market Ready Inspections, and it's absolutely amazing. We gave you a little carrot the last Masterclass, and we had a few people come up and take us up on our offer for a free inspection. Don't ask me why every single person in the room did not come up to our table. That's crazy. So listen, come see us afterwards. This is Richard. He's our field manager for inspections. So if you want to get into the weeds, you can ask him. If you don't, you can ask me, and we'd be happy to just talk with you over lunch. And obviously, if you want to capture that free inspection, come talk to us as well, and we'll give you a little bit more information. But Market Ready, do you have anything to add? All right. Have a great Masterclass, guys.
Hi, Vic DeVore here with DeVore Design. We do photos, video, and home staging. And we also, there's a lot of vendors in this room, too. We do website design. We do social media management. There's a couple vendors here who we recently launched websites for. So if that's something that, you guys are interested in talking about, let me know. We do branding photos. We have a studio near downtown to do headshots and branding photos. But I also, if you guys get your phone out, I can give you guys a promo code for services. If you have a listing coming up, or if you're interested in headshots or branding photos, send yourself a text or an email with this promo code. It's MC, like Masterclass, ORP 0224. MC ORP 0224. It's $75 off, and that expires at the end of March. So let's do some business together. And I'm up here hawking coupon codes. Let's take a selfie together and give a big round of applause to Aaron for throwing this together. Thank you, guys. You can get in here, Aaron.
Let's look good. I'm in enough of them.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Vic. Hey, good morning. I'm Steve Bell. I'm with Harding Bell International. Thank you, Stewart Title, for the shout-out. We love work with all title companies. These guys are great. But anyway, we are a CPA, full-service CPA firm. We do accounting, bookkeeping, tax returns. Yes, it's that time of year, tax returns, entity setups. We've specialized, among many other things, we've specialized in working with realtors, property investors, specifically foreign investors is the niche of ours. So if you have clients that are foreign nationals looking to set up a structure. They're wanting to know how to invest, what's the best way. Feel free to reach out. We do free consultations for any of our services. FERP is a big part of what we do as well. So if you have a need of that, if you have questions on any of that, happy to help out with that. We also, in our team, we're not just English speakers. Other than me, we have Spanish, Hindi, Mandarin, and Portuguese. I think there may be another one out there as well. So if you have needs for that with your clients, feel free to reach out. Thank you again, Aaron. Great to be here again. Thank you.
Love it. Love it.
I don't think I've ever been last on here before. Hello, guys. My name is Monica Santiago. I'm with Assured Partners Insurance. We're one of the largest insurance brokerages in Florida. We specialize with 25 different insurance companies, you know, all the good stuff that you guys hear about insurance. But I did want to come on here and tell you guys that the average home insurance premium is going up this year on about a $300,000 dwelling to $2,500. Make sure you guys keep that in mind. Shop the insurance ahead of time. Don't wait to the last minute. And I do work with many of the amazing panelists on this group, so I'm really excited to see if I can work with you guys. All right, have a great masterclass.
Love it. All right, and if you guys can pull your phones out really quick before we get started. Anybody ready to start? If you are, say, oh, yeah, and pull out your phone and hold it up real high. All right, if you could take your phone out right now and just type in MasterclassCFL.com. This is how I test if it actually works. Does that take you to next month's session? Why don't you go ahead and grab a free ticket while they're still free, because this month we let them all be free. But I'll tell you, the first 100 are free, and then you're paying money. It's going to Base Camp Children's Cancer Foundation. So grab the free ones while you can. Next month's session, it'll come up here, but it's going to have the wrong date on the slide. So don't pay attention to that. It shows a Friday. It's definitely on the third Thursday. It's on March 14th, not 15th. So ignore the slide. I'll fix that later, but it should be right on the website. Is it right on the website? Someone yell it out. 21st, sorry. March 21st. Yeah, I'll get this right eventually. It's right on the website, okay? So ignore me. It's on the third Thursday in March, just like it always is. Grab your ticket now, though. We're going to have a panel of agents who all sold like in the 20s and 30 millions, except for Ben. His team sold 75 million. He personally sold 35. They're all like in their 20s and 30s and sold in the 20 and 30 millions. So we figured that sounded like a pretty cool panel. And that'll be bookended with an Ask the Experts panel on the second half of it with some badass people from the title world to answer questions about what's been going on these days that affects your closing. So everyone cool with that? We got that March 21st? All right, let's get this thing started. Y'all ready to learn something? All right. Let's just bring these people up and do this thing. All right. So I'm going to give you their abridged bios. They're all badasses in the lender world, and they all are people you should hear from. Mike Smalley, he runs Waterstone Mortgage. He's the, Mike, what's your title for Florida? Or the Southeast region? VP of something for the Southeast region. Basically, they run several states. They sell hundreds of millions of dollars. His team personally sells, what did you guys sell last year? 50 million plus. And 20 years in the business, closed 50 million personally, $750 million as a region, which is pretty awesome. And apparently, he started in the business with Mr. Fosgate right there, who's coming up next. So that's pretty cool. Let's give it up for Mike Smalley. Sorry, I botched that. Mike Smalley worked with Scott Fosgate. So Scott is a third-generation Floridian, 23 years as an originator. He's building a statewide team now with Atlantic Bay, and he's been in the business, who have been in business for 27 years. Just realized that's what he meant. Let's give it up for Scott Fosgate. By the way, can I just tell you one? Actually, I'll bring them all up, and then I'll tell you the interesting fact about all four of them. Zach Bleznick, 17 years in the mortgage business, a top 1% broker in the nation. His team has funded well over $1 billion as Home First Lending with over 8,000 closings. And let's give it up for Zach Bleznick. He's already up here. And last but definitely not least, my man Jason Purcell personally sold just under $55 million as a part-time LO last year. His company, though, he's a partner at Certified Mortgage Planners, 23 years in the business, $400 million as a team last year, focused on raising the next generation of mortgage professionals, helping more agents become successful. Let's give it up for Jason Purcell. Now, there's one other reason that I want to give a giant round of applause to the four of these individuals on the stage. Anyone ever been to a Real Producer event or in a magazine that you liked? Just raise your hand. All right, so at least half of you and the rest of you just didn't want to raise your hand, I'm guessing. If not, you can get out. No, I'm kidding. these are 4 of the people that actually help make Orlando Real Producers happen. So every single person on the stage is not only a partner of Orlando Real Producer, they're all founding partners, which means they all signed up before there was ever a magazine, before there was ever an event, when it was just an idea and I was pitching it, and they all signed up for a multi-year deal and kept it going. So it's been 7+ years of these people supporting this platform. Can we give a giant round of applause to all 4 of them for helping make this thing happen? Because I think that's awesome. All right. Let's get started. Sorry for all the other stuff. I'm going to let you guys talk a little bit more about this too. So if you guys have thoughts or want to bounce things off each other, you don't have to wait for me. But here's what they want to know. In general, we're talking about mortgage nightmares. So I would like to know, let's start with this. What are some questions that agents should be asking lenders, whether it's a multiple offer situation or just getting an offer in general? Let's just start with that. What are the questions that agents should be asking that they're not asking or not regularly asking, or maybe only top producers are asking when there's multiple offers, when they're going to offer on something? We'll start with you, Jason. We'll just go down the line. By the way, if your mic's not on, it's the left button until there's a green glowing light in the circle. And if your light shows red, it means you're muted. Hit that button again.
Yeah, unfortunately, on a lot of your listings and the multiple offer situations, you're not getting the phone call from the loan officer in advance. And so I think we have to vet them, unfortunately. And one of the things that you've got to ask them is, tell me about your buyer's approval, right? And a lot of times they're not going to know that client. And then you've got to ask them, have you reviewed all income asset credit docs? Have you met with them face-to-face or over Zoom? Tell me about their qualifications, for example. A lot of times, sometimes, especially down south, they're asking for, hey, show me your automated underwriting findings, for example. But if that loan officer can't confidently tell you something positive about the client, then I think that's something to be skeptical about.
We're just going down the line?
I think so. You're next.
All right. Well, I mean, those are all great points for sure. I think also on the flip side, talking about vetting buyers, when you guys get pre-approvals from lenders that maybe you don't work with, a great question to always ask is, hey, is this how much you were, or you're going to ask the client, hey, was this how much you were approved for, or is this what you requested? Because another thing is, when we get pre-approval letters as agents on our desk or on your desk, you know, we might be showing somebody a $300,000 house when they really qualify for $400,000 house. And a great advice for you guys is to ask that question, because a lot of lenders, not lenders like us, of course, but a lot of lenders, they don't have the skill set to be able to talk to people about the difference between $10,000 in mortgage payment. You know, $10,000 in purchase price, really only $50 to $60 a month in payment. So you guys as agents, your time is so valuable, right? So if you guys are traveling all over town because somebody brought you a $300,000 pre-approval letter, they really qualify for three. They really, whoa, hello. There you go. Yeah, they really qualify for $350, and it's only a couple $100 difference per month. You guys can find them something a lot quicker. But, you know, on the agent perspective, you know, really, when you talk to a loan officer, if you're vetting them to accept multiple offers, you really want to see how transparent that loan officer is, right? If they're stumbling with their words, if they're not able to really sell, you know, the client. When we get a call from a listing agent, we're just selling that buyer and their ability to close on the deal. So that's probably the biggest thing is that loan officer doing a really good job in selling that person and why they're a good fit for your seller? And are they making themselves available? So one of the key things I always say is, hey, I know how important it is for you and your seller to keep, you know, to be in the loop for the entire transaction. Just as you've called me and reached me now, feel free to call me throughout the transaction and I'll do the same.
Yeah, awesome. Great points, guys. You know, the one thing I would say too is, and I know this is always a gray area for you guys, or as far as the feedback I've gotten, but know your buyer, right? You yourself, like know, you know, if you're the buyer's agent, obviously the listing agent's not going to know them intently, but know your buyer, right? Know basically what do they do. You're not asking them for credit score. You're not necessarily, or social security numbers, right? Any confidential info, but ask them, you know what they do. Hey, if they're self-employed, you got more questions to ask that lender, right? Really, did you really, you know, how approved are they? Have you fully, you know, underwritten their tax returns? You know, do they qualify off tax returns? Or are you having to go bank statement program, right? Because bank statement programs, as an alternative, normally take a little bit longer because most of us don't do those in-house, right? They're done by, you know, outside portfolio lenders. So sometimes that takes longer. So know your buyer. I think that helps, you know, helps you to formulate the questions. And here's the thing too. If you're working with someone that you don't know, right? Our buyers love to find things on the internet, don't they? And,
You know, if they find a lender on the internet, you know, they're not as tied to you. We don't see each other face to face, right? So they don't, I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, don't normally care as much, right? They're not looking to get repeat business from you. So make sure if you don't get the answers from that online lender, call one of your local people, right? I tell agents all the time, I'm happy to answer a question. I'm not on a deal so that you look like, you know, a realtor expert in the lending side, right? So lean on your people here too to ask those questions of lenders you don't know.
So all great answers. The only couple things I would add is I would ask the open-ended question, just say, tell me about your underwriting process, just to get a feel for, you know, what that looks like. So Scott and I are lenders. They're brokers. It doesn't really matter if you're a lender or a broker. It matters that you understand what that process looks like, that there's some consistency there. So tell me about your underwriting process would be one. And if they're not, my green light's on too. You are green. Yeah. That better?
Yeah.
If they're
Hold
out
it
of
closer to your face.
if they're out of the area, I would ask them, tell me about your appraisal process. So do they have, you know, local appraisers? Is it going to be a random rotation, or do they have some influence on who's on their appraiser rotation? If they're out of state, and Scott talked about internet lenders, I would ask them, how many transactions did you close in Florida last year? Because like we do loans all over the country, there's certain states that it's really easy for me to do business in, and there's certain states that I have no business doing, even if I can with licensing, because just the customs are different. So, you know, so tell me about your appraisal process, tell me about your underwriting process, and if they're out of the area, how many loans have you done in Florida in the last year?
All right, my bad, guys. Let's talk about things well, actually, I'll stay with you, Mike. You and I had a good convo about good, great, and bad lenders. We talked a lot about what makes the difference between a good lender, a great lender, and a bad lender. And what we were talking about was how a lot of people in this room might not realize they're really only working with a good lender, and sometimes that makes the difference. Can you talk a little bit about that philosophy, and then I'll ask everyone what they think makes the difference between those three lenders?
Yeah, so I'll give you my definition. So to me, a bad lender is exactly what you guys would expect. Like, they don't call you back, they don't close on time. You know, their deals blow up. They issue like denial letters on Thursday at 5 for a Friday closing. So, you know, we all avoid them, right? Like, we just gave you a bunch of questions to avoid those companies. To me, a good lender is competent. So they understand guidelines. They do a good job. They close their deal. They call you back. I don't think that's enough. And I would think these guys all agree. Like, we're asking in the mortgage business for referrals from you guys. And in order for us to be a valuable partner and add value and make it an equitable relationship, we have to help you make more money. And we probably all have different ways we help you make more money. That could be marketing. It could be co-hosting events. It could be following up on leads. So to me, if you guys are looking for a lender, and you probably all have lenders you work with, like, the difference between good and great is great helps you make more money. They don't just get the deals closed. You know, maybe that's that they refer you business. So like for my team, the one thing that we do the best is we follow up with leads relentlessly. And any realtor that I work with knows that my teams, you know, we view it as a partnership, and we're going to tag team the lead follow-up. Because we think conversion is as important as lead acquisition. It's conversion, right? And everybody has different answers, but I think that difference between good and great is a great lender really strives to help you guys make more money.
You also use the term that I want to make sure gets it. You called a good lender an order taker, and I realize that they're just checking the boxes.
Yeah, well,
sometimes they're just an intermediary with the underwriter and you, and back and forth. To
yeah,
they're
basically Amazon, right? They're fulfilling an order.
Understood. What would you say is the difference between good, great, and bad, and what's something that you do to help agents make more money?
You know, what I would say is a great one is as proactive in their communication as possible, right? Like, I always want to beat my realtor partners to their question, right? Well, what's the status, or what's going on with this scenario about this buyer, or something like that. The other thing I'd say a great lender does is he's going to deliver bad news fast, right? I mean, let's face it, guys, we can be the perfect lender, you can be the perfect agent, write the perfect contract, perfect deal, something's going to happen, potentially, right? I mean, it's real estate, and there's things we don't control. So on that side, I think delivering the news, but also delivering the news with, hey, here's the possible solution, right? I mean, coming to you proactively with that. A couple things I'd say that we do, and I agree with Mike too. I mean, providing extra value is huge, right? We can all do loans, It's what else are we doing? You know, are we showing up with you at your events? Are we door knocking with you? Are we, you know, providing you marketing ideas, right? So you need to look for those things in a great lender. We do a couple things that we do, I would say, is number one, on the appraisal side, we have our own panel. We self-manage. So we don't use an AMC, an appraisal management company, which I think is huge. I've been on the appraisal management company, you know, with a company that used that, and that's a big benefit. I've been here a long time. I grew up here. I've known appraisers for a long time, so that's helpful. And the one other thing is an upfront underwrite process. We have a true upfront. We underwrite a client prior to finding a house. We underwrite them off credit, income, and asset. And so the letter that we give you reads as an approval by a human underwriter, not just a automated DU approval, right? So that's where a lot of pitfalls are avoided is in the upfront process.
Zach?
Yeah. So where do I start? Well, I mean, you guys really echoed a lot of things I would say, but when I think about really, somebody doesn't want.
He has a better microphone.
I got 2 mics. How many do I need to get this done today?
Yeah.
All right. So
they'll adjust to you, but when you switch it, they're adjusted to it.
I promise. Guys, can we get this together so I'm not delaying
hold
this?
it to your. Well, here's what happens. The closer you can hold them all to your mouth. See, some of you guys don't realize there's people on Zoom, and they have to hear this.
Hello.
So when you think about people hearing you, it's also got to be heard through here. So if they could adjust to you guys all holding it closer, it'll get right. And if there's ever something wrong, these guys will fix it in 2 seconds if we just keep.
Yeah. So there's definitely 2 or 3 things that I want to add. Number one, a great lender is one who can fully understand that prospect up front. And let me illustrate an example for you guys, right? Why is it that a loan gets denied at one lender and then it flips to me as an example and I'm able to close that deal? What is really considerably different between a great lender and a bad lender is their ability to ask great questions up front. The best loan officers are those who ask the best questions or are the most inquisitive. So there's 3 main pillars really of every mortgage transaction: income, credit, and assets. You know, the bad lenders are saying, well, how much money do you make? And they say $60,000 and they write that down or type it into their computer. And they don't say, well, is that base plus commission, right? And a lot of the challenges we face is because we're not going really granular within each of those pillars, right? How's your credit score? It's this. How much money you have in the bank? It's this. But we're not asking the questions, great, how long has it been there? Where did it come from? How do you have it? A great lender is one that can ask those questions to avoid the issues so that you guys have a smooth transaction because, again, why are lenders who take 30, 45, 60 days to close a deal that can close in 7 to 10 days? It's the ability to ask the great questions up front. That's huge. The second thing is that a great lender is one that you as a real estate professional hands a lead off to us. You know, Mike talked about conversion, right? You as real estate agents are putting your paycheck in our hands, right? So when you hand us a lead, you want to make sure that we are doing everything possible that we can do to close and convert that transaction for you. So it includes follow-up, as these guys mentioned, but also make sure, especially in a time like now when real estate volume is down, can we all agree it's down, right? You're going to come across more unique transactions, and you have to have a lender who actually knows how to get the deals done. Because there are lenders here on the streets who have access to different programs like renovation loans, so on and so forth, but they've never touched one in their life. But what's going to happen when they're trying to make their rent or their mortgage next month and you hand them a transaction and they say, yeah, I do renovation loans, but they've never touched one before. Now they're experimenting on your client. So a great lender is somebody who's willing to walk away when it's something they don't specialize in and they play to their strengths. You got to walk away from a deal because our job is not to risk your commission, right? You know, the reason why, you know, I've had success in this industry is because I make friends with everybody. I have no hesitation to turn to one of these guys and say, you're better at this than I am. Let's go at this together and make sure that we can serve this real estate professional and this client the right way. That's what makes a great lender.
Jason?
Yeah, I love that. And I've got a gentleman kind of piggybacking off what Zach said coming to my mastermind tomorrow for loan officers, and he specializes in lot loans and construction perms. And so I just refer to my financial advisor because that's not something in my wheelhouse. And whenever we aren't one of the best, or if not the best, then pass the baton, and that helps you and takes great care of your clients. I throw the industry under the bus as being super transactional. And what I mean by that is most of the communication is done over the phone and email and DocuSign. And this is the largest financial decision that most of your clients or most of your families are making. And I just believe that it requires more than a few minutes on the phone, a sheet full of numbers, and cross your fingers and hope. And I know that all of these gentlemen have professional sales presentations, but it's also hard to provide financial advice over the phone. You cannot make a life-changing or impact over the phone, for example. And I want to create the client for life and have that relationship just like each and every one of you do. So I meet with probably 95% of my clients over Zoom. It's typically about a 30 minutes. It's super, super personal. They will get a follow-up video from me. They'll get the pre-approval letter, and then the agent will get any notes from me. But if I meet with a client via Zoom, I have an 82% conversion from that to closing. And I think that that's one of the higher conversion ratios that I've ever heard of. But again, it's because of spending the time up front, and I do throw the industry under the bus. The other thing is my team rarely does loan applications online. And the reason for that is, again, I want to make it really personal. Most of our clients are going to do this 3 and 5 times in their life. They're not mortgage professionals, and a lot of times the data that they put in there is going to be wrong, and unless a mortgage professional comes back and really corrects that data, that's the way that the loan application or pre-approval process starts off on the wrong foot. So I think that really a great loan officer or a good loan officer should be super technical when it comes to doing loans and then have a very technical team. Haven't lost a loan in almost 20 years, and you're talking a few thousand loans. It's something that I'm very proud of and that we protected at all cost. And that is also something that when we're making that listing agent call, I do share that, especially if I've never worked with that agent before. And the calls that we make on behalf of your buyers to those listing agents can mean the difference between getting your offer accepted and not, and that is also helping you win. But Zach also talked about, just having additional products, loan products, and then having the creativity to be that creative problem solver. And then if there is turbulence that arrives, jumping on that with that solution mindset. But then the other thing, and Mike shared about this, helping you win, helping you get better, helping you make more money. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that more in detail in a little bit.
Sure.
Aaron, just to add one point. So Jason talked about the online application. The mortgage industry, and Scott did a little bit too, has gotten really lazy when it comes to pre-approving people. It's basically a 3-minute phone conversation, and it's go to my website. And the problem with that is you don't do what Jason does, which is building rapport. What Zach said, asking questions. Like an application's come through, and it says they make $120,000. Well, that might be what they make annually, right? But it's supposed to be monthly, and the client filled it in wrong. And so most loan officers will just divide it by 12, hit send, off they go without verifying. Like when we talk about asking good questions, and that was a great point Zach made, you have to ask, like, if I take an application for someone and they're single, okay, and then if I ask if they have any children and they say yes, then I should probably follow up with, like, do you have custody or not, right? No, I don't have custody. Cool. Do you pay child support? Yes, I do. Cool. How much is that, right? Those things are all going to come out in the underwriting process. A script that I think all of us probably use up front is like making sure the customer knows that we're on their side. We don't get paid until they close, but you have to tell me everything. Anybody seen the movie The Goonies? Okay, you know the scene where when they're like, Chunk, tell me everything, and he starts like going on this long ramble about like, when I was in 3rd grade, I did this, that, and the other, right? Like that's what we want customers to do. Like, tell us everything. People like us will figure it out, whether that's we can help you now, or we can put you in a path to buy in the future, or we might have to change products. Like, we'll get you there, but you have to ask the questions up front. Just like if I'm single and I have children, then I would say, do you receive any child support? Yes, I do. Cool. How old's your kid? 15 and a half. Okay, I can't use it. How old's your kid? 12. Okay, do you actually receive the child support? Can you prove that you've received it? Is it court ordered, right? Or is it a handshake agreement? Like, all those questions are things that like we ask throughout the process because we know it's going to come out in underwriting at the end of the day. And so a lot of the transactions that blow up at the last minute were because it was, pardon my French, it was a half-ass application, okay, with no follow-up questions and no report being built.
Junk in, junk out.
Yeah, so this isn't a debate, but I'm going to provide some perspective. First off, team, we're doing Zoom calls moving forward. But I wanted to comment on the online application because just hearing these guys, personally, we're a big fan of online applications, but I'll preface it and say that doesn't mean that we don't vet, right, as we're supposed to. But the reason why I wanted to even say something is because, again, everybody has their different style. I think it's incredible what you do. Clearly it's working. But for us, the reason why we like to push online applications and why I'm even saying something is because I don't want the agents in here saying to their loan officers who successfully leverage an online application, say, oh, call my client. I don't want you just sending them a link. A good loan officer doesn't just send them a link, right? They do a welcome call. It's structured. There's workflow. They're asking all these questions, and they send it personally for us after we go through that comprehensive welcome call, which I'm sure is very similar to your Zoom. We're sending them the online link because the reality is that for things to go smooth and efficiently, people need to get familiar with our systems and our tech. And for me personally, it's been a gauge to know how this transaction is going to be, right? I want to be able to scale. I want to be able to do a ton of business, right? So if I have people emailing and parceling every single loan document to me over an email, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So pushing them to the online portal from the beginning is going to be a gauge. Can this person actually upload documents? Can they follow a process? Are they motivated, right? You know, and I was always against online applications. I took every single application over the phone until one day I was buying a car and I was financing through Truist, and they sent me a link, and I said, well, can you just take my information over the phone? And they said, that's not our process. You need to go on there. If you're motivated, you're going to go online, you're going to fill out that link, you're going to get it done. So it's also a gauge in a way to do it. You're right. Conversion could potentially go down when you have somebody having to fill out an online app, but if you know how to do it the right way, I think you could successfully utilize it.
Love it. I've got something to add, but my perspective is only worth a grain of salt. But I've noticed that the best lenders in town, and we work with a lot of them, and we've seen a lot of the other ones, there's a level of personal development in how they run their business. Like, your lender should be at least on your level, but really in most cases, your lender should be more impressive than you. Like, the average lender cannot be at the same level as the average agent in your office. Whoever you're going to probably needs to have their systems more dialed in, their strategy more dialed in, just their personal development more dialed in. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that by using someone you like who's also growing with you, let's just say, you're often not getting the benefits of having someone like these four guys who can give you more perspective, can give you coaching, can give you guidance. I mean, I've learned a ton of stuff from literally all four of them, and I've noticed in my own transaction of accidentally working with a newer lender that it's very obvious when the person can't add anything to the situation. They're just fulfilling. And I don't know, I just feel like the lender should be more developed and more on top of their stuff. And if they're not impressing you on a regular basis, you're going to deal with some issues like, for example, getting a call at 5:15 that something needed to be done by 5. You know, I guarantee you that does not ever happen with any of these people or any of the other ones in the room. I'm not over promoting the four that happen to be on stage. But what I'm getting at is that their level of development, you know, I was in a deal and I kept getting calls at the end of the day when it was too late to fix things that something wasn't done that we thought was done at 10 a.m. And all I knew is that means there's not a system for staying on top of their stuff, or there's not an assistant, or there's not something, but I know as a business owner that something's not being done that I would never screw up, because I can guarantee you that I never let a contract go till midnight when it has to be in at 11:59. I've never once just dropped the ball on it. And I think that a lot of people, by trying to work with a person who might have done a really cute pop by, or is willing to help you with your party, or is doing, you know, whatever they're doing, you might be missing out on someone that's really running their business like a business, which is the best way to get the value for your customers. Is that at least fair? Maybe not at me. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
100%.
You might not always like your lender, but you'll respect them when they do a good job. And that goes to the whole pop pie example, right? It's like you want to support your friends and people who jump into the industry, but they're literally experimenting on your clients. And, you know, it sucks. You want to support your friends and people, but you got to pick somebody that can get the job done.
So since we're talking about that, what are some of the red flags agents should recognize when they're dealing with either a rookie lender or, let's say, a mediocre lender? Like, what are some red flags? What are some things that they should notice that should go, ooh, maybe
they have an Android
not handling their stuff?
They have an Android. Sorry, Aaron.
Hey, I'm not a lender, so it's cool.
Any of you guys?
You want to start?
Mike, you want to do it? Or Jason, you want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, you know, if they don't really know the file, if you're calling to vet them, if they're not confident, if they're not communicative, that is the first red flag. If all of a sudden during process, especially when you're under contract, communication stops, right? That is the big telltale sign. And that's, again, why it's so important to work with a local lender and how you guys have to overcome the objection, especially if you've got a buyer that's coming pre-approved, either from their bank or from an out-of-state lender, for example. And we can kind of talk through and script through that, because I think that, you know, we can all help you with that conversion. And some of you are at the top of your game already and don't need that. But that is one of the big differentiators between your top producers, is the level of influence and endorsement they have when they're endorsing their loan officers, for example.
I would say if their email address is at AOL.com or at Gmail or CFL.RR or something like that, you may want to avoid that one. I would check out their personal website and see if it looks legit, just like someone would vet a realtor. There's a website you can all go to. It's called NMLSconsumeraccess.org, and you can type in the loan officer's name and or NMLS number. What I would be looking for there is their history and experience. So if they've been at 17 companies in the last 5 years, that's probably a red flag, and that happens a lot in our business. It's usually a loan officer that's not very good at their job and not very successful, and they blame their company, so they switch companies, right? So bouncing around is a big red flag. And then if they're not accessible early, okay, so meaning that if you can't get them to call you back until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that means they're not full time. And to be successful at this job, you got to be full time.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's NMLSconsumeraccess.org. And if you just Google NMLS Consumer Access, it'll pull up.
That's the national licensing system for all of us. And that's huge, right? Right now, look, we already talked about it. Transactions are down, right? We all know this. So it's more important than ever that conversion's happening, right? And it's more important than ever that you're working with a veteran. I'll be honest with you guys. We all, being in this for so long, we've seen these more challenging transactions, right? Somebody that got in 2020 when it was just like picking an apple off a tree, come on, I'll be honest with you. Those folks don't know what these times are like. They haven't been through them. So that's it. The history of the person's huge. And also, you know, if you suspect something's going wrong and it takes an extra day or two for them to call you, like I was talking about, deliver bad news fast, right? They have call reluctance. They're avoiding, right? They're avoiding telling the bad news to you or the customer.
Can I add one that you made me think of?
What's
Sorry, I
that?
didn't mean to cut you off. If you see them marketing on social media, but they're not taking your phone calls, it
Yeah.
means that
Yeah.
their systems
I just
are
saw
not
you
good.
posted on Insta. Yeah. Nice reel. Oh, you're at the lake, huh? No wonder I didn't get a call back about my deal, you know? So that's, again, paying attention to their personal stuff, right? Being associated with people that you want to do business with, right? People that are representing you and your brand and your morals and your authenticity. I mean, that's huge.
Love it. Did you guys have anything? Anyone else have anything to add? Can I go to the next question?
I mean, really, the only last thing I would add is, like, if you're in a partnership right now with a lender and you've been asking them for contribution, and you're giving them business, right? And you guys are closing business and you're asking them to help support your client appreciation events or maybe do some kind of, lead spend or something. They just keep pushing the ball down the field and they're not really, committed to that. They're just really taking and they're not really giving. So that's kind of a big red flag for me.
Jason, did you have anything to add to that? Or you already answered, right? Let's switch topics completely to the hot topic of the day. How are you handling rate conversations today? How are you handling people's concerns with rate, conversations about rate? What are you telling people, and how do you manage that? You want to stay on this side, or do you want to talk? Whichever side.
Yeah, I can go.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to know, so here's what's happening with interest rates. So if you guys think of a train, okay, here's your analogy. So you've got an engine, you've got the passenger cars, and you have the caboose, okay? And so the engine is inflation, the passenger cars are mortgage rates, and the caboose is the Fed. And so in 2021, the engine inflation started going up. That happens first. The second thing that happens is mortgage rates start going up. And then at the end of the train, the caboose, then the Fed starts hiking rates. And the Fed's hiking rates because they want to slow inflation down and slow down the economy. And so we were on an upward trajectory for 2 years. And at the end of 2022, inflation peaked and it started coming down. As inflation was coming down, mortgage rates were still going up, right? Because they're in the middle of the train. And the Fed's still back here, right? And the Fed's still hiking, okay? And so now we're at a point where inflation has crossed the top of the mountain. Inflation's coming down. Now mortgage rates have started coming down. The Fed's still behind, but they're right at the top, right? The Fed hasn't, they're done hiking. They haven't started cutting yet. And so, if people want to know what's happening with interest rates, it's all driven by inflation. Inflation moves first. And so we're in a downward trending environment. We switched from a rising rate environment to a declining rate environment around the 1st of November last year. and rates went from 8 to about 6.5%. Today they're pushing like probably a little higher, maybe mid to upper sixes. In a downward trend environment like we're in now, that we'll be in for the next 24 months, maybe a little bit longer, there's going to be days, weeks, or months when rates go up. So we recently had 2 reports that caused a little bit of concern in the market. We had a jobs report last week that was a little bit fake news, a little hotter than expected. It's all seasonal adjustments. There was actually 2.8 million jobs lost, but the report was that there was 350,000 jobs gained. So that economic report, plus a little bit hotter than expected CPI inflation report this week, caused rates to spike a little bit. That's a short term, not a long term. Now, we do have to be careful, and I think we all probably give this advice, that floating a rate and not locking in is risky. And even if we think rates are going to go down, like the experts, the guy that a lot of us probably follow, thought rates were going to go down after the CPI report, and it was a surprise, and rates shot up pretty significantly. So if you're talking to your customers about rate, and you probably aren't a lot, just they have to be really careful, and you can't be greedy, because even though we're in a downward trending environment, which we should all celebrate, because lower rates will solve our biggest challenge right now, which is affordability. It's not an everyday thing. It's a, down for 3, up for 2 type of, stair step that we're going to be on for the next 2 years.
Yeah, great point. It obviously is a difficult conversation because everybody thinks they still should get 3%, right? So 3% is not here anymore. I don't know if we will ever see 3% again in our lifetimes. But first off, the conversation is, look, 6.5 is not a bad mortgage rate. Like, let's look at a 40-year history, right? And I think at one point I saw it was close to 8%. It might be down a little bit from that. But I mean, historically, we're in a fairly normal. Mike and I got in the business 23 years ago, the same time. The 30-year fix was around 7%, right? Upper sixes. That was back in the beginning of the 2000s. And all we've seen is down since then, right? So that's what everybody has expected. I still think that, transactionally, situationally, you need to look at what can be done for that deal, right? You've heard us all talk about 2-1 buy downs. Well, there's still a real thing, right? If you've got someone that needs some relief on payment for the first couple of years, maybe they know they're going to be excelling in their job. Maybe they're going to be getting a raise down the road. Look into those. A lot of people don't also know that if we do get a dip in rates and you've done a 2-1 buy down, right, where the seller funded the buy down, which means they just prepaid the interest, you actually get to use that interest. If we refi somebody a year from now, we take that interest that was paid and we do a principal reduction to their loan amount, right? So it's not a loss, right? A permanent buy down would be a loss. If you bought it down to, I bought it down to 5.75 with all this seller money. If you refi, that's gone, right? But the temporary buy down, that's one piece a lot of people don't realize about it. So it's not an easy discussion, but it's more of a, can you afford this today? And let's look at what appreciation's done, right? You're scared of a 7% interest rate, but you might miss out on 10% appreciation, right? Get in the game. Get in the game because you can refi if rates come down. Obviously, that's always on the table. So,
I've always been the guy that is like, tell me the rate and I'm going to sell it type of thing, because I really, really understand the benefits of home ownership. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They're, a lot of real estate professionals, let's just say real estate professionals encompasses mortgage and realtors and just people in general, cannot have a really constructive conversation with somebody. So when they hit a rate objection, they're going to throw out one of those cheesy lines you've all heard, right? Marry the house, date the rate type of thing. And that's really just a cop-out. It's not something that you should be saying or talking about because it doesn't really provide any true value to that consumer. So, for as many people right now who don't qualify, because affordability is a real challenge, right? It is a real challenge. There's a lot of people who cannot achieve homeownership right now. There's just as many people, if not more, who do. So my advice to you as a real estate professional is to look at your marketing and see who you're actually speaking to every day. If you're a newer agent in the room, it's easy to go after the first-time home buyer target, right? But typically a first-time home buyer, right? The stereotype is maybe this person doesn't have money, it's down payment assistance, they're looking for that lower entry level price point. We want to help all those people certainly get into homes. The conversion on that price point is just not as high as maybe a move-up buyer, right? So one of my key things that I talk to people about when we're talking about rates is I'll say something like, listen, there's a lot of individuals who are not in the same position you are, meaning there's a lot of people who can't qualify. So for one, be grateful the fact that you could actually afford to buy a home right now. And then what is your goal, right? You know, let's just say that that $500,000-$600,000 buyer is paying 2% higher in rate that they want. Maybe that payment difference is $500 a month. So when you put things into perspective and you think about where home prices were just 2 years ago and how much you had to pay over, let's say on a $400,000 house, you would have to pay $450 2 years ago for the house. Today you might pay what, $380, you know, maybe $395 with some concessions. So that's over a 10% discount that you're getting off. Let's just call it $50,000, 40 to 50 grand. So if you're paying $500 a month over a 2-year period extra, that's about $12,000. I don't know about you, but simple math, $12,000 in interest more versus $50,000 overpaying. You always hear the saying, you make money when you buy, not when you sell. So if we can have conversations like that and really truly illustrate why home ownership is so powerful, because you get the appreciation, right? You get the tax benefits, you're paying down on a loan, and you can actually have that conversation with people, you're gonna get a lot more people off the fence, and interest rate is not gonna be the main focus, because rates go up, rates go down. But the best time to buy is when you're ready for you and your family and whatever that situation is.
Love that. And that is accurate. I mean, all of us remember 3 years ago when we lacked the inventory, when rates were super, super low, when the competition was literally 20 offers, every single offer going over list. Our clients were dejected, and many of them had to settle. And at that time, I was giving out buyer fatigue pills, which were nothing more than jelly beans in a clear plastic jar with a fake prescription label that said, you know, if you experience buyer fatigue, take 2 of these puppies, and if you still experience it, call your awesome lender. But it was a joke. And it was to make light of a very frustrating situation, and I gave them out to everybody in my company. I gave them out to all of my agents and all of our clients. And I still keep them on my desk as a reminder. I can share it with you guys as part of my Zoom, but in every single Zoom, I'm holding them up, and I'm retelling that story as a joke, right? And I'm turning that into a counterintuitive statement that elevated rates are not that bad of a thing. Right now, buyer demand is lower, but we've all seen it increase too. As Mike shared, that rates peaked at 8% at the end of October. Well, now they're in the upper 6s, for example, and that's why we've seen some increased buyer demand. And we're forecasting rates to be somewhere in the mid-5s to 6% the second half of this year. And so we just know that that buyer demand is going to increase, and that's what we're saying the time is now. The time to buy is always now, or when Zach said, when your family is ready. Right? And so again, then we've got to turn that from a standpoint, I future pace what that refinance potentially is going to look like. So right now, maybe we're closing at 6.875, but maybe we're going to refinance in the mid to upper 5s in the next 12 months. So we've got to forward pace that, and I'm going to professionally manage that loan for you. And Mike and my friend, Renee Rodriguez, is the one who coined the phrase, marry the house and date the rate. And I told this story yesterday because my wife and I were sitting on a plane, and this guy and girl literally walked down the aisle, and I heard the girl say, we'll just marry the house and date the rate. And we started laughing. And so it is so cliche. But at the end of the day, it's kind of true, right? Because again, if they can get in right now, get the home that they truly want and not that they have to settle for, and you guys get to negotiate on their behalf, and then we're going to professionally manage that and refinance and save the money, that is doing a good thing, and that's professionally leading them. So you guys also need to be able to look and provide that data. And so last year we appreciated about 7% nationwide. We're forecasting somewhere 4.5% to 5%. I think the second half of this year we're going to see potentially double-digit appreciation, for example, because of that increased buyer demand and that competition. So again, that's kind of how we're dealing with the rate conversation. It should be really easy. And if you've got a professional mortgage person up there, they can convert your clients and get them to take action.
Aaron, while we're on the topic of the market in general, we can probably all talk about this. So the biggest challenge we're facing is affordability, right? And affordability is a combination of prices and interest rates. And there's a study that was done recently, and the question that was asked was, is it a good time to buy a house? And 83% of respondents said no. Now, I don't think you could get 83% of Americans to agree about pretty much anything, okay? That study's been done since 2010, and from 2010 to 2019, around 25 or 30% of people said no during that 10-year period. And we know what the market was like then. It was a consistent upward trajectory. In 2020 and 2021, at the height of COVID, when the market was booming, 40% of people said it was a bad time to buy a house. We all know what the market did the last couple of years, right? And so I think it's important for us to understand that 30% are always a no, right? We call them renters, okay? The challenge we face today is if 83% of the people say it's a bad time, that 50% gap. That's the minds we have to convince. And we can't convince them by saying, "Oh man, you're crazy. It's real estate's always good." We have to convince them with data and facts and stories so they can make the decision for themselves that it's a good time to buy a house. And so every one of us probably has a personal real estate story that, think of the first house you bought that wasn't your forever house. My first house in Winter Park had a closet that was the size of that chair. It had a bathroom that was smaller than that chair that we didn't even use because it was so small and hot that it steamed for hours after you showered, okay? And we all have personal real estate stories, but that house I bought for $268,000, which was above my budget, which we're all dealing with customers like that today, we lived in for a number of years. We moved out and rented it. We knocked it down. We built our dream house. Like, that's a great real estate story, and we all have that. So I think we have to have stories we can tell people of our personal experiences and experiences with customers, because people buy on emotion, okay? If we want people to buy on facts, here's some data we can give them. So we all know what the Case-Shiller Home Price Index is, right? It's the most widely accepted nationwide measure of home price appreciation, and we probably all have the same charts and graphs and share it on social media, but it's been around since 1942, and in the 82 years that it's been around, there's been 6 years in history that home prices have declined nationwide. 1990, home prices went down 1%, okay? As 1%, there was a recession right around the Gulf War. There was a 5-year period from 2007 through 2012, which was the financial crisis, and a lot of us in the room, including on this stage, lived through that, and we know that what caused that, those factors, the interest-only stated income, no money down, liar loans, don't exist anymore. So the factors that cause that don't exist. And I think most people and most consumers agree that we're not headed for another like 2008 type crash. And so if you look at the data tells you that not only is today a good time to buy a house, but every year since 1942, outside of really 5, is a good time to buy a house. And there's other charts that we've seen, like, so Barry Habib, MBS Highway is probably a service that we all use. They actually took the Case-Shiller numbers and they projected it over 10 years. And they said, if you bought a house for $100,000 any year since 1942 and you held on to it for 10 years, would you have made money after 10 years? And every single time except for 1 year, dating back to 1942, if you bought it and held it for 10 years, you'd made money. And that one time was 2006, and you needed to hold on to it for 11 years. And so, you know, the challenge of the market today, the affordability piece, is we just have to attack that with data and facts, and we have to attack it with stories. And if we do that, that 50% that should be a yes, that's a no, I think we can start changing some minds.
Love it. Love it. All right, I got a question for all of you guys. But before I do, if you've learned something so far, can you jump up on your feet and make some noise and just clap for these panelists? And then I'll ask a few more questions. I'm giving you a chance to get up and move. I'm giving you this opportunity. All right. I'm asking the question too. I just figured you may want to get up and move around a second, so I make it easy for you. All right. Let's talk about conversion. I'm going to actually start with Zach and then go to the left and let Jason answer last. What are some things that you are doing or that agents are doing that can increase conversion? What are things you're doing that you're seeing agents do that you recommend they do? Anything related to conversion strategies, tricks, tips, or things that agents need to be doing to make sure they convert better?
Sure. 2 things. Number 1, follow up with your clients, right? Far too many of us, show one house, get somebody pre-approved, and then allow that client to control the rest of the transaction. If you want somebody to buy, you got to, string them along. You got to understand the psychology of a buyer. They might be excited one day, but they might not be excited the next, life circumstances, right? So just because they don't answer your phone the next day or they cancel a showing or whatever the situation is, that doesn't mean that they're out of the game, right? And you got to stay in front of them, and you got to provide value. You can't just shoot out a pre-approval letter and disappear, right? Because what's going to happen, for us and for you, we could do absolutely nothing wrong. We could do an incredible job, but then they walk into an open house. They have another heightened emotional experience at that time, and that agent connects with them in person. Maybe you just showed them property one time, and then all of a sudden that client is taken away from you because you just thought that they were your client because you showed them a house one time or did one pre-approval, right, as a lender. That just simply doesn't work. The second thing is that making sure that, when it relates to conversion, all of us probably are sitting on thousands of leads within our database, and we have, deals within there. Jason said earlier that our business is very transactional, right? So how are you guys providing value to your database every day? How are you staying in front of your database? How many of us, I know this is like something very simple and maybe cheesy for you, but right now is a great time to file homestead exemption. Many of us, Aaron, you should always talk about, the statistics of how many people, when he was selling Cutco, remember your actual real estate agent, because what is the stat?
12% can name their real estate agent, and 13% can name their lender. So you kind of edge.
Yeah, and it's just because we just forget about the people, right? So if you guys are staying in front of your customers and you're actually building true value, when I look around the room and I study top producing real estate teams who continue to grow through this economy, is because they're creating true community around themselves and what they're doing, right? They're doing the client appreciation events. They're providing value. They're appealing to people's lifestyles and showing them, outside of just that transactional part of real estate, if you really get, into the emotional, side of people and what they're doing with their house, which is, again, the biggest purchase, you're going to have a lot higher conversion. So just talk to your clients more often. You'll probably close more deals as a result.
Love it. Scott.
Ditto.
Anything you wanna add on conversion?
He speaks the absolute truth. Building that relationship with someone, I tell clients all the time, and that's why I have a team, right? Because I don't have enough hours in the day, but I will sit and talk to you as a consumer, especially a first timer. Let's spend an hour on the phone. I don't care. Ask me every question. I want you comfortable. I tell them how I get paid, like you, commission. We all do. Right? We're not online lenders that might be getting a salary and get a couple $100 when the deal closes, okay? We are commission earners, and I tell people that right up front, right? You break down those barriers, you gain the trust. Trust equals conversion, right? So, breaking that down and being as genuinely honest, letting them know, the other good part, in 2010, Dodd-Frank happened, right? The Dodd-Frank Act. We all lost what I call about 30% of what we can make as lenders, right? With that change. Downside. Plus side, we don't have as many dirtbags that are selling this guy a certain rate that this guy also qualifies for, but he's not as smart, so I can sell him a higher rate and make more money. That's what used to happen in the lending world. The beauty of it for me in a script, and again, building the trust, is, hey, guess what? I don't get paid a single dollar different, whether I do an FHA loan for you, a conventional loan for you, no matter what the interest rate is, that's not how I get paid. So my advice with you is 100% what I would do with your money. Right? It's honesty. And I think that, that's been a big help, for the professionals, like these gentlemen I'm sitting with. So I think conversion's trust. I think that's where it stems. And whatever works for you in that way. We've got great tools. We've all got, good CRMs, things like HomeBot. If you haven't heard of that, let me know. That's a great tool for follow-up, right? It's providing good, actual, legit data that they can make their most important life decision based around.
So. Love it.
I'll give you a couple of tactical things. So the first thing to increase your conversion is to measure it. Okay, and so what I mean by that is track the number of leads you get. So how many leads did you get? How many deals did you close? So that has to be something you can measure and measure your improvement or decline over time. There's a couple of questions I think are important to ask people. Not what's your time frame, but in a perfect world, when do you want to move into a new house? Okay, when do you want to move into a new house? And then tell me about your current living situation. So are you living at home rent-free with mom and dad, which means I have no lease? Am I trying to sell an existing home first? Am I in a rental? Okay, when does your lease expire? It expires in September. Cool, it expires 8 months from now. Can you break it? What's the penalty? Are you willing to break it? And so we have to ask some qualifying motivation questions. And then everyone in the room here, all of us, we all have a sales process. And the farther along we can get people in the sales process, the higher the conversion. Like Jason mentioned, I think 82% of people that he gets to do a Zoom consultation with, he converts. That's probably the end of the sales process before a contract. There's people that don't get to that point because they're not responsive. They don't send documents in. And so we measure our leads by stage. And I know the conversion increases as I get them from without having their documents to having some documents to having all of their documents to getting them fully approved in underwriting like Scott does and we do. And I'm sure a lot of us do. So the farther you can get them in the sales process will also increase the conversion as well.
One other quick thing on that, on that trust piece, it's also what makes them tick, right? Finding out what makes them tick and being involved, from a life perspective. That also means while using a local lender, I'm helping. I want to sell it just as bad as you do, right? If it doesn't close, neither of us make money. So me, what I find, and these guys being local and not being an internet guy, lending in other areas that I'm not familiar with, I talk to them about real estate. What are your kids into? Oh, well, I grew up in College Park, man. I played Little League, da-da-da. You can add into those life things. That's more of that connection. And if you're local, you can speak to it, right? So.
Jason?
Yeah, I think to piggyback off what Zach said, just having a lender partner that's truly a partner. Like in the past, we've all been guilty of maybe we were busy doing a pre-approval. We thought we did a great job. Maybe it was over the phone versus Zoom, for example, and then it's back on you, and it's your responsibility to convert them and bring a contract to us. And so, your lender partner should have a system in place where they are constantly in front of them on a weekly basis, for example, and be able to show it to you. That's when you've got systems and structure, you should be able to document that, and they should be able to share that with you. The other thing, just going back to local and working with your lender. A lot of times our buyers are coming pre-approved already through their bank or from an online out-of-state lender where they're chasing the internet, chasing the lowest rate, for example. And I think that we or you have a responsibility, number one, to help find them the perfect home. And then the second responsibility that you have is to position them in the best possible way to get their offer accepted. And again, to kind of go back and story sell, put yourself in the shoes of the listing agent. He or she is protecting the seller. And if there's two pre-approvals, one from Joe Schmuckatelli from California,
just say Rocket.
for example.
Just say Rocket, Jason. Just say Rocket.
Rocket. And so one of my loan officers yesterday is like, Rocket's saying they can pre-approve this person for $75,000 more, and it's total BS. It is literally a piece of paper that's going to blow up. And you guys have all experienced the online, out-of-state, the Rockets blowing up deals, for example. But by having a pre-approval from any one of these gentlemen on the stage is literally as good as cash in this market. And oftentimes they're going to have a personal relationship with the listing agent, or they're going to know each and every one of their companies. Doesn't force you to use them, but by having their pre-approval letter, that positions us to get your offer accepted. And then it's on all of us to convert them at the end of the day. So I think that is a big, big thing from a conversion standpoint for who you work with.
Love it. Also, just real briefly, I want to go back to converting clients from day one. One thing that I've seen over my career that I feel that, from your vantage point that agents can get a little bit better at is the sending it to a lender and then walking away, right? So I feel like the best conversion is when the realtors don't stop their follow-up or that kind of partnership with the lender once you hand the lead. So as an example, you group text me with a lead. You say, hey, Zach, this is John. John, this is Zach, the lender I told you about. Hey, Zach, can you get this person pre-approved? Okay, no problem. So we go through the process. We try to get that person on the phone. And then I'm following my normal follow-up process, whatever it is, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that I'm calling, texting, whatever I'm trying to do to get that client on the phone. And then I never hear from the realtor again. Like, I'm literally drowning on that text message, like, hey, call me. And the realtor never jumps in once and says, like, hey, John, would really love to show you homes this weekend, but you got to respond to Zach. So I think that you guys, you just remember that same level of follow-up that you guys did to get us that client, continue that, and we'll have a lot better conversion together because, again, you were the very first person that talked to that person on the phone. You probably understand their motivation and rapport better than we do, right? And you were the very first person they talked to. We're already a second person down the line, so they don't trust us as much as they trust you. So, again, when you send us a lead, follow that same follow-up that you guys followed, and then I promise you these clients will be a lot more responsive as a result.
The tag team effort is huge. If it's a tag team effort between the lender and realtor, the conversion goes up exponentially. And if you have a lender that's your go-to, that you work with consistently, that you've got a lot of action with, whether it's leads and process loans, schedule a recurring call. So I have a number of agents we do a recurring pipeline call every single week. And most of our CRMs allow us to literally click 2 buttons, and I can pull up every transaction, every lead I've got from this realtor going back, years and years and years. And that's a phone call that should happen on a consistent basis where we talk about, the 8 or 10 leads, right? Some could be people we can't reach. Some could be people that are actively looking at properties and somewhere in between. But a weekly call like that will do wonders with the tag team effort trying to increase the conversion.
Love it. Jason, will you add something?
Yeah, I think the industry gets it asked backwards from a sense of urgency standpoint. So the lending industry has the sense of urgency on the back end of the transaction, and that's why you see so many come down to the wire and so many missed closing dates. And that's just unacceptable. The sense of urgency should be placed out of the gates. And so that's literally when we're taking that initial application call. That Zoom with me is scheduled in the first 3 minutes of that call, and it's literally the next day or the following day. Law of diminishing intent. We all know that. We've just got to keep that ball rolling for you, and we've got to get them pre-approved and in the car or out there looking with you guys. And again, you can also help with that sense of urgency, and our sense of urgency is completely different from the buyers sometimes. And so that's where we like to get them in the first 24 to 48 hours, for example, face-to-face with me, because guess what? If you leave it on, and the buyers need to be led, you have to lead them. And so if you don't lead them or you just give a phone number and a name, a lot of times they don't have that sense of urgency. And Zach said, maybe they're going to go in an open house. Maybe they're going to go to a new on-site community. And guess what? We all lose. So that's where having the sense of urgency, and then obviously your loan partner having the sense of urgency, can increase conversion.
Love it.
One final thing on that, Aaron. Sorry, I know we're keeping it going, but look, go offer some jelly beans. Go back to your people 2 and 3 years ago that had that remorse and got out of the game because they got so frustrated. We're calling those people now, right? It is a good time to get in because we don't have the competition. Rates are okay. They're not terrible, you know, and it's a great time to get in. I mean, that's so go back and look at your stuff 2 and 3 years ago.
Love it. How many of you guys have learned something from these panelists so far? Make some noise. Give them a round of applause. I want to also give a round of applause to Dave and his team with D. Stewart Productions doing all this audio, video, all that, fixing problems. You have no idea how much that they advise that we do wrong, and they fix it even though we don't listen. So thank you, guys. Pull out your phones real quick if you haven't already. You're going to want to grab your spot to next month's session. It's on scaling to $20, $30 million plus. We're going to have Ahmad Hassan from Compass. We're going to have Corinne, Joseph Sipp, and Ben Laub. I don't know if that's actually how Laube. I've never actually said it out loud. I've known him for a while, though. But they all crushed it last year. They all have awesome teams. And then we're going to have an Ask the Expert title talk with Hope Richards from RTR Title, Rick Nair, and Mary Beth Louise. So make sure you grab your spot to that one. And that's going to be pretty awesome. Today's session, all the proceeds are going to Basecamp Children's Cancer Foundation. By the way, the following month, I might as well tell you, we're doing selling real estate to the globe. The location will be named soon, but we've got 4 agents that absolutely crushed it last year selling international properties and selling properties to international and foreign buyers. That's probably a better way of wording it. We'll have we'll have another lender panel basically on the second end, which is just ask the lenders their little-known lender tricks. And then the month after, we're going to have Chris Bissett, Luann Leventhal, Mark Raumaker, and Tiffany Yates talking about building their team, culture, and business. And it's not on the flyer yet, but I'm giving up my job for the day. Ken Pozik's going to moderate. Is that pretty cool? I think it'll be cool. So anyway, make sure you grab your spots to those and that you're ready for all of that. Shout out to today's supporting sponsors, CFBI and Unique Title. And also, one thing you might not know, it's on one of these slides. I'll try to find it real fast. Sorry if I'm giving anyone epilepsy. Today's lunch. How many of you guys like food? Say, oh, yeah? If you stick around, the first $500 spent at Eden Lounge Bar, which is the best burger in town, is sponsored by PJ Crescenzo with Element Mortgage. Thank you to PJ. You guys ever seen they make the rookies buy food in the NFL? PJ is the new guy in our group. He came from Charleston. He's a Charleston Real producer partner. And I told him he should buy everyone's lunch at the mortgage thing. So make sure you thank PJ and make sure you say what's up to all the panelists too. What else? Also, another lender thing, I might as well mention it since we're talking about it. $250 was given to Basecamp Children's Cancer Foundation because the Apex Group at Guaranteed Rate, they sponsor the charity every month. So anyway, I'm going to ask the panelists one more question. Y'all cool with that? Can we also give it up to the Enzion? Give their staff a round of applause for being in here early. All right, I'm going to ask you guys kind of a choose-your-own question-answer one. So you can pick which of these you want to answer. I want to either hear about the best things that agents could be doing on the front end to make sure that loans go smoothly, or if you've already talked about that, let's talk about what unique products or programs you think agents should know about, either or. Things they could do to make the deals go smoothly, or unique products or programs they should know about in like a minute or so each. Mike, you want to start with it?
Yeah, I would just say encourage every buyer that you work with to not just get pre-qualified, but get fully pre-approved, approved in underwriting, get a loan commitment letter, get as far along in the mortgage process as you can. That's the most guaranteed way to to avoid challenges, avoid surprises, anything that you don't want. It also helps increase the likelihood that your offer gets accepted. If a lender like us calls and a listing agent and says, we have this person fully approved in underwriting, with the phone call, us reaching out versus an out-of-state pre-qual letter, on your listings, what are you going to choose, right? You're going to choose the stronger buyer. So just the farther along you can get your buyers in the pre-approval process, the more likely they're going to go under contract and have a smooth closing.
We have that one word in real estate that you say 3 times in a row. Well, I have another one. It's communication, right? So communication. And what I mean by that is sometimes, there can be gray areas in real estate sometimes, right? There's there's a condition of a house that, here's an idea. Call and talk to your lender about it before we get into the process. Typically, lenders only know about the condition of a house from the appraisal, normally, right? We don't normally, other than it's a VA, we ask for a termite report, but normally we're not asking for, the home inspection, right? The home inspection report. So if you know that it's a potential talk about it in the beginning. Guys, this is a true story. 2 weeks ago, I had a realtor. I was actually doing his personal loan as well. We had another buyer under contract. That buyer mentioned to him a month prior that he might at some point go out on his own. It wasn't supposed to happen until the end of the quarter, but when we got his verification of employment back on February 1st, he had already resigned. It's on a $700,000 deal. Maybe the realtor should have said to me a month ago, or to the client, might want to just talk to your lender about it, right? You might not be doing it, but just talk to him, right? Communication, you guys. That's why I'm saying know your buyer up front. You're going to convert more. You can share more with a partner that knows how to, maybe circumvent that and tackle it from the beginning. Like I said, product-wise, we've just got the upfront underwrite thing. I think is huge. It's going to come into play more as we got more buyers coming in the market. Get your people set up the right way to convert them.
Love it. Zach?
So talking about products a little bit, when interest rates are higher and times like this, it's a little more squirrely. One of my great friends, Bobby Davidowitz, we all know him. He's coined a phrase, investor season. And I think knowing about the products that are available for investors is super strong. So you guys have a unique opportunity where we live in Florida, Central Florida, where there's a tremendous amount of development and things going on. And essentially, there are smaller developers out there who are buying up pieces of land, and they want to develop 1, 2, 3, 10, 100 properties, whether it's townhomes, single families, right? Making more affordable housing. Well, these developers, they're not salespeople. They're not marketers, right? And they need us to help guide them through that process. So I want you guys to open your eyes more to conversations that people are having about, hey, I want to build a spec home, or hey, I want to get into development. We all have friends that are like that, but they just don't know where to start, right? And I think that goes for anything in life. Why are some people wildly successful with different things like crypto and stocks? Is because they understand it. Why are some real estate agents or mortgage brokers really successful in one space? Is because they understand it. These products are not much harder than your standard conforming conventional or FHA type of deals. It's just that we don't know about them. So there are products out there for investors like ground up financing, where you have somebody who has lots that you can come as a real estate professional and say, hey, I'll bring a lender to help finance these builds for you, right? I'll provide all the marketing, right? I'll sell these things, and then we'll work with my lender who will also probably provide an incentive to help keep some more money in your pocket if they could be the end lender on the transaction. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there like that. Also, as hard money may be a little bit more difficult to access. As an example, if you are an investor and you're looking to fix and flip a home, right? Typically, the way that the hard money, private money world works, it's peer-to-peer, right? I'll go to Jason, I'll say, hey, I want to flip this house. You got $300,000. He goes, sure, Zach, I'll give it to you at 12%. And then he goes, go find the house and bring it back to me. So I go find the house, I come back to Jason, and he says, you know what, Zach, I don't really like that house, or the guy I gave $300,000 to down the street hasn't returned it back to me, so I don't have liquidity and funding right now. I'm sorry. And now you're scrambling to find that next investor who's going to give you that money, and it's a relationship-based game, and now you might lose out on a deal. So with that all being said, there are lenders out there who offer what I call institutionalized hard money, where essentially their funds are, for lack of better words, unlimited, right? And there are products out there where you guys can link up with investors, come to somebody like myself, and I can lend as little as, or a max of, for instance, a 90% loan to cost, meaning they could put 10% down, financing the cost of repairs, not have to worry about somebody who doesn't have an appetite for it, and you guys can get access to those funds super, super quick and be able to continue helping investors buy houses who have cash that are more looking at the returns on the home versus the interest rate. And I don't know about you, but those are a lot easier people to work with. So,
Love it.
yeah.
Jason, bring us home.
Yeah, there's really, we call it 4 levels of agent relationships from a lender standpoint. And obviously, we all want to be the primary or go-to. But then there's the secondary or backup relationship. But then there is also the product or program relationship. And we all have products and programs. And I wasn't that guy that talked about it. I always wanted to win on professional excellence. But now I'm kind of known for our bridge loan that's called the Simple Bridge that we branded 3 years ago. And because of that, it's converted so much opportunities for my agents. We do hard money as well. So we do it personally, and I've got an accredited fund of investors that do the hard money. That is a save a deal sometimes for us. And so I had a portfolio investor on the hardest deal of my career last year where they cut my LTV on a $2.65 million listing by 10%. And I came in and funded the 265 second lien position, which I do not do, but it was a very qualified buyer. But that led to a 2.65 listing sale for my agent and a $2.45 million buy side. So you're talking 5.1 because of me having the ability to come in and do that private money second. The other thing that I just want to talk about real quick is most of you are focused on only adding buyers and sellers. And you can 2x your business over time by adding buyers and sellers. It's just going to take a while. And so what I'm teaching right now is how to 10x your business by partnering with business referral sources, literally one business referral source that can provide you 5, 10 closings for this year. My financial advisor for over a decade has equated to a 6-figure income annually for the realtor that he refers. And he is the financial quarterback in that realtor's life. And he's been the #1 referral source for over a decade as well until this year. Now, when I talk about the financial quarterback that this financial advisor is, I don't partner with this realtor outside of the transactions that my financial advisor is responsible for. But when you talk about conversion, maximum. You talk about working with the affluent, raising your price point, and being super qualified, maximum. But when I share that he was upended this year, he is no longer the number 1. It is the estate planning probate attorney that now surpassed him. So who in here would love to have 2 relationships that equate to $200,000+ in income every single year? And over time, that is something that continually reloads for you. You end up celebrating and doing life with your friends. Now, think about also business referral sources that are not market or interest rate sensitive. So you think of death, probate attorney. You think of divorce, family law attorneys. You think of relo. Those can move the needles, and I think that's what we also need to be focused on. You need to balance your business with adding business professionals, playing the long game versus just being the transactional or looking for the next buyer and seller.
Love it. Let's give these people a round of applause. Couple things. Number 1, make sure you grab some food outside. The first $500 spent is on PJ, so thank him and say thank you to the panelists when you see them. Thank you to everyone that sponsored today or sponsors Real Producers in general. Big shout out to Dave Stewart, D Stewart Productions. Make sure you went to MasterclassCFL.com. It shows this one. And by the way, I'm going to share with you a little trick. If you go to MasterclassOrlando.com, it'll register you for the following month for now. So just a little thought. So anyway, that's that. Share the stuff on social media. Oh, actually, I'm going to ask everyone for a favor. If you're here today, could you guys just share a post on whatever platform you want from this event, anything from this event, hashtag MasterclassCFL, but also add somewhere in there that they should join us next month. Put the date in there. It is March 21st. I got it right this time. So see you guys there. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks,
Give a round of applause to the panelists. Panelists, come together real quick for a photo. Look at Dave. Dave, do you need these people in their chairs still for a second?
Yeah.
Yes, no. Do you want that? Yeah, guys, come together real quick. Do you want them to clap or do anything? All right, you guys can get up. You guys are good. All right. Oh, yeah, my bad. You good, Dave? Perfect. Hold it. All right, y'all.